Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha, where we bring you cutting-edge conversation while exploring the quantum possibilities. And we're so going to do it again tonight. I haven't even seen you guys in the chat room yet, but I know you're warming up in there for our fun guest. Our fun guest is like really multifaceted. We're going to have a good conversation tonight. Before we get started, as always, I want to open with gratitude. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the super chats. One day, Augie and I aspire to get super chats like Rex Bear, right? Doesn't he get the super chats off the hook, right? Amazing. Anyway, I want to invite you also over to the Mastermind Connection. What the heck is the Mastermind Connection? It's a group that meets Sunday afternoon, and we come together in a mastermind way, and we set an intention for benevolent outcomes in the world, in people, in weather patterns, in waves of things that are coming in and hitting the population. And it's always so amazing. And we're getting phenomenal results. And even more than that, we've instituted a new practice in our container where we meet, and we're challenging ourselves to stay in the highest vibration during the time that we're together. So sometimes when we come up with a topic that we're going to mastermind about, people get very triggered, right? They get triggered because they want to mastermind for children, right? For children to be safe. But before they come up with that intention, they get all worked up, and their vibration is just off the charts, not great, right? So we're having a fun time keeping our vibration lifted while talking about the things that trigger us. How expansive is that? So I'd like you to join us. It's so much fun. You can send an email to Augie at the Mastermind Connection, all one word, at gmail.com. The Mastermind Connection at gmail.com. Want to invite you to one more thing, the membership group. The membership group is growing. That is where there are proprietary videos just for the members. It's a place where Augie and I test drive some vulnerable topics that we don't really want to put out to the full population yet, to see how it goes. It's a safe container for us, and it's kind of like membership has privileges, right? You guys come back. Sometimes we have meetings where we do questions and answers, or talk about anything you want to talk about. Mac is going to put the link in the chat. And Augie, tell us about our fun guest. I'm so excited.
Yes, I will. And yes, join us in that membership group on YouTube, because it's going to be fun, and you'll have direct access to Nori and I for private conversations in there. And if you have really something on your mind that is heavy, or you need help with, just bring it out. We can possibly help, and maybe not, but you can have access to us and we can talk. So join us in the in the YouTube and the membership group. We have Chris Maitheu with us, and he is the owner of Forbidden Knowledge News. And for those of you that like to surf the internet while you're listening, here is his website, forbiddenknowledge.news. And there is an awful lot of good stuff that you gotta go visit. And he is an on-air personality with the shows you can find just about everywhere, and he covers all the stuff that the establishment do not want you to know about.
The establishment.
And that's why YouTube has awarded him with cancellation. Yeah. So everybody get canceled on YouTube. They're the good guys, probably.
It's a badge of honor there.
Yeah. And he has also had some personal paranormal experiences that I'd love to have him talk about tonight, because this is good. And he's an experienced researcher on Bigfoot, extraterrestrials, the cryptoids, and that is something that we want to hear about, because he's creating a video documentary right now on these kinds of things. So and he has learned an awful lot from the phenomenal guests that he has had on his show. So, folks, if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe so you can get a notification of the new videos and the shows coming out, because you don't want to miss this. All right. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Welcome, Chris.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for inviting me, Augie. It's an honor to be here. Like I was telling Augie, it's not that often that I get to be on the other side of the microphone here. So I enjoy having a good conversation with you fine folks here. Looking forward to it.
Thanks. And like I said before, you are multifaceted, and you really are. You've got a lot of areas of knowledge. But there's always something along the path. For some of us, it happened when we were little. For some of us, it happened recently. What was like a pivotal experience for you that kind of pulled all of those pieces together for you, or opened the gate? Either one.
Well, it's interesting. From a very young age, I have questioned the nature of reality. I always believed that things weren't exactly as we were being told, and I was always kind of the black sheep of the family and outcast in school, and I always questioned reality. But I also fell into a sleep pattern for the longest time in my life, just working a regular job. I was part of a bad relationship, part of a bad marriage for a long time, just living the material life, and checked out of the exploration part of who I am until around 2012. Something kind of clicked in me, and I just became fascinated with things that are hidden in our reality, and the cover-ups and the corruption that's happening in our government, everything that we're not being told, as well as the paranormal and occult side. So I just started diving into research. And I eventually started this show, and I haven't really had any extraordinary paranormal experiences. I was always curious about it. There was nothing really in my lifetime that I would consider unexplained, except for some sleep paralysis experiences, which at the time I didn't think were paranormal, but I'll get back to that in a little bit. What really changed everything for me was a couple of years after I started doing the show, it was gaining popularity, but in no way was it a career for me at the time. It was a fun hobby. I still had a corporate job that I was working, and I was not happy with that job at all. I was comfortable with the revenue that I was making, and I was getting by very well, but I did not enjoy the work that I was doing, and I would much rather be doing something like this, talking about weird and paranormal stuff to people all day, which I was doing, but I couldn't translate that into a career at that moment. Well, at the time, I was also going through a difficult period. I was going through a difficult breakup, and my job was highly stressful for me. I didn't enjoy it, and I didn't enjoy the place. I was living in South Louisiana. I was born and raised, grew up in South Louisiana. It's where I started this show. And like I said, the show was gaining popularity, but nothing near anything. I was making maybe a couple $100 a month off of some ad revenue, but nothing I could quit my job over. And I really wanted to be able to do this full time, and I really wanted to be able to get over this depressed state I was in and quit my job and all these things. Well, I had suggestions to start meditation, which I did, and I was horrible at it at first. It took me so long before I could even get to a relaxed enough state and calm my mind down enough to get anything accomplished. But I remember the one night I did, and it was incredible. It started where I was outside talking to a neighbor, and I don't remember what the discussion was about, but at the time I was going through a bad breakup. Things weren't too good at work. I was kind of depressed. I knew I was going to meditate later that night, outside talking to my neighbor, and I noticed in the sky these 3 bright orange flames in a triangular formation just slowly moving up in the sky. And I kind of looked at it. I was like, that looks interesting. And my neighbor's oblivious. He doesn't even notice. He's still talking to me, and I'm watching these things, and all of a sudden they just blink out of existence. It's like they started to take off, and boom, gone. It's like whenever, I don't know, it's like whenever I had made some kind of connection that there's something weird about it, it blinked out of existence. Well, I thought to myself, that could be something. I just filed it in the interesting file, and I went about my evening, and I went about my meditation session. And like I said, it was very difficult for me to relax and get into a deep meditative state until now, because I took people's advice and I put on 432 hertz tones. I I got into the most relaxed state that I could, the most relaxed position I could, and I was able to get into a deep meditative relaxed state where I was in a different space and my consciousness was shifted into a different type of area where it was outside of the normal material realms that I'm used to, and it felt like I was at a complete state of peace. Whenever I reach that state of peace, it's like my consciousness, it took off into a portal or something. It felt like it was traveling through space and time. And I started getting all this download of information that I didn't understand at the time. I believe it's still unfolding, the amount of information that was downloaded during this experience. Mathematics, science, geometry, and the history and people's experiences and my own experience, all this thing was flooding into my brain until all of a sudden it stopped and I was at a state of peace and calm again. Oh. And this is where during this, it was just pure blackness, peace and calm. But out of the right side of my subconscious peripheral vision, this beautiful blue light begins to seemingly get closer to my subconscious vision there and to where I'm at. And as it gets closer, this amazing feeling of just love and gratitude. It was like a drug that I had never experienced before. It was such a euphoric feeling, but I knew in an instant that this was what love is supposed to feel like. I thought I loved my parents. I thought I loved my, people in my life, but it was nothing like this knowing of love that I felt when this blue entity kind of enveloped me. And as it did, and this love took me over, it started to communicate psychically with me. It said, "Hello, how are you?" And I was freaked out because I knew this wasn't me talking to myself. I could definitely tell there was an outside consciousness communicating with me. Now, I grew up Catholic and I started to freak out a little bit. And I said, I think I got real nervous. I was like, "In the name of God, are you good?" or something like that. I thought I was being infiltrated by a demon or something. And before I could even finish, it was such instantaneous communication. This thing was like laughing and reassuring me and shooting these beautiful love feelings and saying, "Yes, of course, I'm okay. I'm a part of you. I'm here because you're ready to talk to me." And I was like, wow, this is incredible. I really enjoy talking like this. I wish I could talk with everybody like this. It's such an efficient and beautiful way to communicate, because before you could even finish a thought, it's like this consciousness knew what you were going to say, and it would be beaming the answer. And the answer was like in the form of imagery and emotions that would immediately translate into something you could understand, like a conversation. And we proceeded to have a conversation. The best part is I opened my eyes thinking I would pop out of the meditative state, but it was like I was in this kind of strange, everything looked strange and misty and foggy, but I was awake and I was able to walk around my house, and this entity was still communicating with me, even though I wasn't in my meditative pose laying down. And it proceeded to say, "You're ready to meet with us," it said, "and we're here to communicate some things to you that you're ready to hear, that you need to hear, that you have been wanting some things in your life, and we can help you achieve this as long as you are ready to listen and ready to become aware of some things and work on some things." And it proceeded to tell me some important things that I needed to do in my life in order to achieve some goals. Heal childhood trauma, to quit my job. This was the main thing. It kept really banging into my head that I needed to quit my job and follow my passion, which was this show. And the conversation lasted a couple of hours until the communication just kind of started fading. But it was just a wonderful therapy session between me and this entity, guiding me along of what things I needed to do to become successful. Go ahead.
I have two questions. One, were you a corporate office or were you in a cube? Just curious. And two,
I was a corporate office. Yeah.
Who was that? Who was speaking to you?
Well, in the beginning, I thought I was speaking with extraterrestrials or something I didn't understand. After all the research I've done, after all the further communication that I've had with this entity, I understand that it is either what we would understand as our spirit guides or a part of our higher self, yes, or even angelic ancestors. They are something that is, I like to call it my spirit guide, because that's the best understanding I have of this point. Something that has been with me since my incarnation, something that has guided me along in my whole life. And I have several spirit guides. Later, some more appeared to me during other sessions later on that I'll tell you about. In fact, the very next day or 2 days later, I did it again. And it was an even more incredible experience where I was actually taken on a craft in my subconscious meditative state. During that experience, I was downloaded before I started meditating, I had this strong intuitive feeling to be in water. So I submerged myself in the bathtub and turned on the tones. And this time I was walked through this childhood traumatic memory before I made contact with my spirit guide again. And this time, whenever I was able to open my eyes, when I closed my eyes again, all I could see was that I was on a craft. I could see outside these massive windows. It was like very sterile environment. They had 3 levels, and outside the windows was outer space. It's the only thing I could describe. And I would open my eyes. I'd be in my bathroom, close my eyes. I was on this craft, and then these etheric beings, which is when I met my other guides, they started to manifest in my subconscious vision. They started to manifest as these little etheric robed hybrid animal beings is the best way I can describe it. They looked like about 4 or 5 foot tall hybrid animal beings. Some were dog hybrids, some were like horse hybrids, some even looked like frogmen, reptilian beings, different types of chimeric entities that were beaming this feeling of love and communicating information to help me achieve the next level of where I'm supposed to go. And it was an incredible experience, even more downloaded information. My guides had asked me if I was ready to accept the task, something like the earthly task in my incarnation. I don't remember exactly what was said. At this point, I was like so emotional, crying during this experience. It was so incredible. And eventually this experience wore down, and I got the instructions that if I wanted to facilitate easier contact and more, I guess you could say, rich communication and a better understanding of what was being communicated, that psychedelics for me is a great way to do it. And that brought me to the next section of my journey, which I followed my guide's advice. I quit my job just out of nowhere, took out my 401k, moved to Colorado because I was not happy in Louisiana. And I just started doing this full time. And my goodness, if my guides weren't right, within a few months, the revenue just started appearing out of nowhere. Like, we started getting ad revenue out of nowhere. We started becoming very successful. And I actually started growing magic mushrooms. They are legal here in Colorado now. I took the advice of my guides to further that exploration, and brought me to the next level.
What's in a magic mushroom, or what breed
a magic mushroom is a regular mushroom that you grow. It is a psychedelic mushroom, though, and they have plenty of different kinds. The kind I grew myself were called cubanescence mushrooms, and they are a psychedelic experience. That have you ever any of you ever done psychedelics before?
No.
Okay. Well, this is something that it's not for everyone, and they're recently understanding that psychedelics are an incredible tool for mental health, for healing childhood trauma, for addiction, for helping people with all sorts of mental disorders. They're microdosing and using ayahuasca and these different psychedelics, like magic mushrooms as well, to have these therapeutic experiences. Now, what most people, what happens is you have this incredible psychedelic, at times hallucinogenic experience where you go within yourself. And for me, I was able to talk to entities. Some people relive childhood traumas. Some people just have deep understandings of the universe. I think that it is a definite spiritual tool that was given to us by the Creator to help us unlock different areas of our mind and make contact with things on the other side of the spectrum. Because when I did start growing them and utilizing them, it was much easier to make contact with my spirit guides, and it was almost instantaneous. And that's what I did for each session. I would go into deep meditation after dosing the mushrooms and have this deep, incredible conversation with my spirit guides that would then give me guidance on how to become more successful in my life, how to become more happy. It wasn't about, learning the secrets of the universe or finding out the future or, winning the lottery or trying to make money for it. It was all about just self-improvement and what was best for me. And that's what I believe that a lot of psychedelic experiences do for people, is they help them unlock the best parts of themselves that are locked away through trauma and just mental illness, basically.
I know these kinds of mushrooms and so on, they have been legalized in some states, but they are not so in other states. So since we are still trying to stay safe here, we got to be a little diplomatic on this one, because it works in...
Now, I would say that I don't recommend it to anyone. I really would never recommend psychedelics to anyone. It worked for me because they work differently for everyone. But for me, it was an amazing tool to heal childhood trauma and mental instability and things that I needed to work on in my life. But for some people, I think that it could make things worse. I think that it could cause psychosis in some people. So it's very important that people understand what they're dealing with, how it would affect them, and to do their own research before even attempting to do any psychedelics.
And to have somebody help them, like you
for sure.
You had beginner's luck with meditation, then you were fast tracked, so it turned out well for you. But, to have somebody that you can trust to be with you, if not,
100%,
who really knows. I know I had a dog bite to my eye, and they gave me ketamine. It took them hours to decide how they were going to do it. And the nurse kept saying, or the resident kept saying, the way that you go in is the way that you're going to come out. And I'm like, well, what the hell does that mean? Because I was scared. I mean, my eyelid was hanging off. And all of a sudden they gave me this medicine, and this little female resident was holding my hand, and I'm up inside my brain, and my brain is purple, and there's purple balloons everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea where I am. So that's my experience with a hallucinogenic. Is that a hallucinogenic? Is that what it's
Yes,
considered?
it is. It's considered hallucinogenic. Yes.
But they're using that for depression. It's incredible. I mean, I'm a nurse. It's working out to be phenomenal for people that have depression and, childhood trauma, who doesn't have it anymore. But yeah, so I'm so glad that worked out for you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's incredible. And there is a dark side to it, which I would like to explain my other profound contact experience. This happened, I think, almost 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. And I was with a friend of mine that had never had a psychedelic experience, and I was going to walk them through just like you said. Well, this experience became incredibly strange. So, like I said, I believe that these substances allow us to interact with different spectrums of reality that we can't perceive normally, including what could possibly be the afterlife or extraterrestrial realms or different interdimensional realms. Well, during this experience, I was supposed to help this person just walk them through their first psychedelic experience. Well, they ended up taking a very large amount and not even having any effects. So it was very strange, but this person was a psychic, and they said that they felt immediately connected to their spirit guides, and they felt like information was rushing in a lot clearer, but they weren't feeling the traditional effects of the mushrooms, which I found very odd. I was. So this person also does the various different types of therapy. So we decided that we were going to walk myself through a childhood trauma that started to come up during the experience. And she was going to help me relive it so I could release the energy with it. Well, we did, and we were able to retrieve this traumatic memory. What we did not realize was there was a negative spirit attachment attached to that trauma. And when we released the energy, that spirit attachment did not like that, and it fought for its life to stay attached to me. And what it did, it took over my perception, and it made me see my girlfriend turn into a giant reptilian, which was actually the entity manifesting in front of me. So the entity manifested as this giant reptilian in front of me saying, "Why are you trying to leave me? You don't love me anymore. Why don't you keep me?" And it was about 7 foot tall. It was wearing my girlfriend's, but this was my girlfriend at the time. It was wearing her nightgown. And it started chasing me around my house. The worst part is my whole house turned into like what it looked like a dungeon. And I could even see outside the sky was blood red and they had mold on my walls. My whole existence had changed. And I thought for a second, maybe I just died. Maybe I'm in hell and this is it. This is all over for me. I didn't know what was going on for a while. And this lasted for a very long time. During these normal psychedelic experience, it's like a loop. You'll have a little bit of strangeness and then it'll get kind of back to normal reality. Well, it didn't go back to normal reality. This entity had me. It had my perception locked in, and it was trying to deceive me. I didn't know what to do, so I went to the water. Something told me to go to water. I started pouring the shower water on my head, and I started praying. I said, "God, help me, whatever's going on." And all of a sudden, I heard this loud, commanding voice come from within inside myself say, "No, you're being deceived." And as that happened, I swear I puked up this black goo, just black substance all over into the tub. And everything shot back to normal, like not only back to normal, but everything was bright and beautiful. And I felt this amazing presence. I felt like an angelic presence in there with me. And come to find out, my girlfriend was outside in a meditative state, and she was perceiving this reptilian, and she was helping. She was calling upon her guardian angels to come and get rid of this thing. And she imagined them throwing it into a portal. And as that happened, she heard me throwing up. It was all a combination of these things happen at the same time. And it was like an exorcism. It was really like I was releasing that negative entity. And after that, everything was incredible. Like that experience really was another huge turning point in my life, where I was able to see things so much clearly because that entity had been with me since childhood, and it was causing a lot of fog. It was causing a lot of depression. It was causing me to not live up to my full potential, but it was pissed when we realized it, and it was trying to fight to stay within me. So that was a pretty crazy experience.
You're blessed. So a couple of people are asking what your meditative method was, because you definitely had beginner's luck, right?
Yeah, I sure did. Yeah, all I did was the 432 hertz tones, and for me, it's water. The key for me is I have to be in water. I have to have my feet in water. I have to be in the tub. Something has to be in water, because I found it's like some kind of conduit for me. It allows me to immediately. What's that?
What's your astrological sign?
I am a Virgo.
Just curious. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's it.
I do have RH negative blood. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but
Interesting. So you had like a healing. You had a healing on so many levels, including spiritual. That was massive.
Yeah, 100%.
That was massive. Yeah.
Yeah, it changed. It really did change the whole trajectory that I was on, especially after that last experience. And it was after that last experience, a few days later, I had the download to start producing the documentary and the docuseries that everything turned into. So it all was about me and my journey and where I was supposed to go, and my guides assisting me in getting there, I believe.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, and you still follow, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I haven't done psychedelics in a while. I think I'm done with that until I'm called to do it again. I don't really do it often. I didn't do it often when I did, maybe once every couple months, and only when I felt the calling that I needed something to heal, or I needed to talk to them about something. And I can still make contact with them. It's not as easy as if I were on psychedelics, but I go in the tub and I go into a meditative state and I can make contact and have a conversation. And I do this at least twice a month, just to make sure I'm maintaining that connection and getting any information that I need.
Yeah, let's leave this medical information alone, because we got to remember that we're not advocating anything like this. There's the good side and the bad side, and you explained both sides here. And I would highly recommend that anybody that is thinking about this talk to a medical professional or someone that has great experience with it that can walk you through it. So I think we should.
Right. So, and on the other side of this coin is, let's take out, the piece about the psychedelics. That's not the important piece. The important piece is what Chris is sharing with us about being in alignment with your higher self, your subconscious mind, your angels, your guides, whatever you want to call it. If you've made that connection once, you want to make it a lot, and then sometimes, depending upon what kind of trauma we have, what kind of habits we have, if there's any addiction, depending upon that will vary how good or how available you are to listen to that voice. Chris is an incredible example of somebody who, walked out of corporate America and did what he wanted to do, and in as a result, his soul began to thrive too, because you were so depressed when you were doing that kind of work. And I think those are the important things to really highlight. And if you want to reach those heights, to be in a state of relaxation where you can hear, right, the directives and the offerings and the suggestions, there's a lot of people that can help you do that. There's a ton of coaches who work with different modalities. There's hypnotherapists, there's QHHT, there's a million, well, maybe not a million, but there's a lot of ways to do it. So I love the information that Chris.
I also have to add that there was a huge aspect of assisted manifestation with certain magical practices that I did utilize. I made sure to pay attention to, first of all, synchronicities that the universe was sending me. I did utilize different positive manifestation techniques, different imaginative techniques to attempt to bring in the success that I was desiring. And it was a lot of work to do that. If you've ever done any type of magical work, it is a lot of focus, and you have to put a lot of intent behind something to get a result manifested into reality. And I was doing a lot of intent work and even sigil magic and things like this to try and bring this reality that my guides were assisting me with into my reality.
Yeah, it's getting complicated. So I would surely say that this is not just for the novice. You got to have some solid advice on this one. Right.
So Chris was just talking about another pathway to really, kind of work with law of attraction. He's talking about manifesting things, and he picked a certain pathway to manifest things. And, the mechanics of it are pretty much all the same. You get clarity on what you want, you create an intention, you use positive affirmations, you use imagery, and without being attached to the outcome, you still give it focus every day, right? Not outcome like, oh my God, I just planted those seeds. Where are the seeds? Where are the plants? Where are the plants? Right? You can't do that. You have to go, okay, the seeds are planted, and I'm just going to envision what that plant's going to look like in the time that it unfolds.
The biggest thing that I can say, though, is gratitude is the most important part of all of it, is being grateful for everything that manifests in your reality.
It's so true. It's so true. And, you can get on a loop with gratitude, And so too, if you've ever been in a bad relationship or hated your job, you can get in a loop with being really miserable and really unhappy. And that is just, we don't want to go there. But to just wake up in the morning and be grateful for the very breath that you took, or the incredible dreams that you had, or you went in the med bed while you were sleeping, or you went to the wisdom chamber, right? Just to wake up and be grateful, that begins your manifestation all over again on the right vibration, right? The right frequency.
Yes. Yeah. And it also, it allows clarity when it comes to recognizing the synchronicities and following the clues that the universe is leaving for you, because it does leave you plenty of clues if you're on the right path.
It does. And if you're willing to listen. I'm going to give a crazy example. And this was back in the day. I was in nursing school and I wanted to live in this really quaint little town in Norfolk, Virginia. And they were all Victorian homes. It was just incredible. There was water, and I wanted to live there. And I drove from North Carolina to there, and I got into this neighborhood. I knew it was the neighborhood I wanted to live in. And I was so comfortable from the long drive. I heard, go right, go left. I did. Go right again. Go left in 2 blocks. I had no idea where I was or what I was doing. And it led me right to the door of a Victorian home that had been changed into 4 apartments. And that's where I lived. So, part of what Chris is highlighting today is his willingness to be available to hear and to say yes to following it.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Huge. It's so cool. So cool. Augie, I know you have questions don't you have questions about Louisiana? Or?
Oh, I was wondering also, just about everybody is talking about an event that is supposed to be coming, or something, they call it a big thing that is coming. We don't exactly know, but we know if the powers that be have their way, we have some indications. But I think there's more to it than that. What do you think about is next for us and mankind, Chris?
Wonderful things. I think that the event you're speaking of, I think we're in the midst of it. I think the event is this mass awakening that we are experiencing on the planet, people coming into their own, seeking spirituality, evolving, becoming aware of the corruption. I think that is the event. And I think that the change we're going to see is a collapse of the old system because it can't sustain itself anymore. Too many people are checking out of it. Too many people are realizing the false matrix and seeing through it. And the more people become aware, the more people check out, and the more this false reality will fall to the wayside, and we'll start to see more and more of the way things really are. I think people will come into more of their consciousness abilities, will have more psychic abilities, will be able to perceive these realms that I was just talking about without psychedelics and all these wonderful things, because what they're trying to do is prevent us from reaching and achieving that via technology and all of the negative agendas that they're trying to put forward, as well as pharmaceuticals and things that they're, spraying in the air and food and everything else that they bombard us with to keep us in this material realm and unaware of our true potential and unaware of our true consciousness abilities. They're scrambling right now. They're doing everything they can to keep us in that sleeping state. But I think there's too many people waking up right now. And I think we are too far into this awakening, and there are too many people on the upswing for it to ever go back. And I think they have great things ahead for in the future. And I think this false system that has kept us enslaved for the longest time will not be in existence, I'd say, something within our lifetime. Definitely.
Yeah. I think very soon.
Yeah, it's quickening.
We are in the quickening. I agree with you. And the thing is, we are observing the enormity of it as much as we can, right? many of us don't really know what's going on in France or what's happening in a part of the world where there's, fires or drought or people are dying of other, different ways. We can allow ourselves to take in what it is as much or as big as we can, right? We do that in increments. And I think, as we begin to open our perception to it, we recognize that, everything that was supposed to happen according to biblical law and lore, and it's happening. It's happening. We're in the middle of it. But the good news is we're almost on the other side of it. It's really amazing, right? Yeah. It's really good. And as long as we keep our vibration steady, and as long as we stay connected to our higher self, then we're going to be manifesting an incredible timeline. And Chris, there was a question for you in the chat. What was your favorite or your most amazing manifestation story?
There's been a few. I guess you could say I manifested my entire trip to Louisiana to be able to start my documentary. I'm completely self-funded with this, and if you're a podcaster, the revenue is not that lucrative. I make enough to survive, and I'm grateful for that, but I was able to manifest enough for a road trip and hotel rooms and camera equipment and all this wonderful things to start the documentary. I've manifested appearances on talk shows like, I believe, Tinfoil Hat and other things like that, and I think that it also affects the people that I attract into my life. I've had such a high quality of people in my life in the past few years that it's incredible. The people that I'm meeting are more and more amazing. And I am just, I'm grateful for all these experiences that we're having right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm just looking at the chat to see if there's any other questions for you. Chris, tell us about your documentary, please.
Yeah, sure. The documentary is a long time coming. I've been trying to get started for this almost 2 years now. I finally, a couple of months ago, took a trip to Louisiana. I figured with the documentary, it was supposed to be just a couple of episodes for a docuseries, but it's turned into, I believe it's going to be an ongoing thing. I'm just going to start traveling to different locations, covering the paranormal history, high strangeness, unexplained events, interesting places, interesting people, eyewitnesses, some of the conspiratorial history in certain areas. And I decided what better place to start than the place I grew up in, Louisiana, which has an incredibly rich paranormal history. Yeah, so I decided to take a trip. A couple of months ago, we were able to save up enough and manifest that money to go out there. And me and my girlfriend went, and she's my camera person, and we went to some wonderful locations. We went to some Native American mounds, plantations. We went to several very extremely rural swamp areas and interviewed eyewitnesses of Bigfoot and cryptid encounters. And it was incredible. Yeah, we also got to go on a little Bigfoot type of expedition. We went out on a little boat into the swamps on a gun-led tour with this my gentleman who's also an experiencer of incredible cryptid encounters. And we went out there and he showed me some Bigfoot footprints and some of the things that are possibly been going on out there. But the most amazing part to me was I didn't realize how many different types of entities and creatures have been reported in the Louisiana swamps. Growing up there, we had legends of a couple. We had legends of Bigfoot, and there was legends of something called the Rougarou, which is a dog man, basically, or werewolf. And there had been other of course, plenty accounts of paranormal activity, ghosts, hauntings. Of course, because of the dark history when it comes to the slave trade, that added tons of dark energy to that whole state. And that permeates throughout the streets in New Orleans and throughout all the plantations. And then there's a lot of dense energy in those swamps to begin with. But some people have reported seeing creatures like smoke monsters. That's the only thing they can describe it as, a smoke creature that can manifest from smoke into a physical being that then looks like a small hominid, about 4 or 5 foot tall, with black skin and hair all over it. There's been reports of lizard people that slither around in the swamps. Now, the most incredible experiencer that I've interviewed, I'd give you his information. You guys should have him on your show to talk to him about his experiences. His name is Scott Pace, and he is just your normal, down-to-earth man. He's a hunter and fisherman, and he doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs. He just goes hunting, fishing. He works just like your everyday normal Joe and wants to come home to his family. Well, this man had an encounter that basically cracked open whatever part of his consciousness attracts paranormal activity, and now he's having alien encounters, hauntings, Bigfoot, all kinds of stuff is happening to him. It all started one day when he was in his deer hunting stand, which is just an elevated stand that people use to perch up and wait for deer to come. And he was looking out his rifle scope, and he says he saw what appeared to be the largest, hairiest man with just complete black skin and hair covering its entire body, and the hair was like matted and dreadlocked, and he couldn't make out facial features. He was a little too far away, but he said it looked like this thing was at least 7-8 foot tall, and it was the most muscular, beastly looking man he's ever seen. And he hears something rustling out on the other side, and he pans his rifle scope over to the right, and he swears he sees what he can only describe as a werewolf, a dog man. And then in his mind, he hears communication, just like I had the psychic communication with my guides. He hears this instantaneous voice in his mind say, "You better put that rifle down or I'm going to come up there and tear you apart." And then he hears this other voice, which is apparently the Bigfoot, saying, "No, he's just looking at us. He doesn't have his finger on his trigger. Don't do anything." Scott, not knowing what to do, the only thing he can do is try to talk to them in their mind. So he does. He sends out thoughts to them. He's like, "No, I'm not going to hurt you. I don't know what's going on. I was just looking at you." And the Bigfoot relays a message that he should leave. So at this point, Scott is terrified. He leaves out the deer stand. He starts heading out, and he looks behind, and he says there are about 4 other creatures, large creatures, following him out of that area of the swamp. And after that, it all kind of broke loose. He opened Pandora's box. He said he would wake up in the night and hear footsteps in his house. He says there was like poltergeist, invisible beings, but it could have been cloaked Bigfoot or dogmen walking through his house, moving things around. He said he saw Bigfoots looking through his window before. They're constantly roaming around his property now. And he is constantly hearing this, he calls it mind speak, from these creatures. He's had experiences like a Bigfoot trying to reach its arm in his truck and grab his cell phone out of his hand. He slapped the hand of a Bigfoot trying to grab his cell phone out of his hand. And he's had other experiences in these same swamps with beams of light and a portal opening and 7 or 8 foot tall light beings, translucent light beings, walking out of portals and right in front of him like he's not there and just going about their business. He's seen these little smoke creatures that can manifest into smoke and turn into a physical being. And he said for some reason, they enjoy. He's a very religious man. He's a church-going man, a Christian, and he doesn't understand when he didn't understand the phenomena completely, he would go out there and quote Bible verses to these creatures and sing them Bible hymns. And he said they seemed to enjoy it, and they would ask him to do it often. And he said one time he was singing a Bible hymn, and a Bigfoot that they got to know lovingly as Stevie Wonder. They call him Stevie Wonder because he's always swinging his head like this when he sees him. He said he's swinging behind the trees, looking like this, swinging his head. So he starts singing the Bible hymn, and Stevie Wonder starts dancing, and all of a sudden these two little people come out of the ground and start dancing like charmed snakes to the Bible hymn that this man is singing to them. Incredible stuff.
Oh, now when you're telling us that story, what is your take on it?
Oh, man. Well, this man is like, he is very sincere, and he's not a person to make anything up. I've talked to his family. I've talked to his wife. He just wanted to go about his business. He never expected any of this stuff to happen. And he's gaining a better understanding of it. He's actually welcoming this stuff. I believe him. I believe that at least he believes his story. I believe something happened to him. Yeah. And he's so down to earth and so lovable. And he's just such a nice guy. He has nothing to gain from this. It's not like he's going on talk show circuits and talking about it. He doesn't like talking about it. He talks about it when people ask him about it, and that's it. So that tells me that there's something to this guy's story for sure.
Is it still going on?
Oh, it's evolved. He's now having astral experiences with extraterrestrials, but not only extraterrestrials. He said he would have missing time. And he would wake up the next day with memories of being escorted through underground caves with 7-8 foot tall gray extraterrestrial beings and what he said insectoid mantis looking beings together. But he said they would also be accompanied sometimes by a Bigfoot, and they would escort him to certain rooms. And he said it was like they were training him in certain consciousness abilities, and they were training him to fight in these astral realms. He still doesn't understand what's going on there, but he says that started happening to him recently.
I'm open to this because I know the Louisiana's got a long history of paranormal. In fact, I have a little incident down there when in 2003, BBC television came over from England to the United States to do a TV documentary, and I was invited to be on it, and they took me down to New Orleans, and we went west of town to a large plantation house, and we were doing the filming there. And I talked to more or less the guy that takes care of the place. And I asked him, because I was curious, what is this place? You got any ghosts hanging around here? And he looked at me very serious, and he says, they are everywhere. They are... we see them down the hallways, he said, and they are just like I'm looking at you. They're solid. They look solid. And I walk up close to them, and I cannot see through them. They are totally solid. They are there, he says. And
interesting.
I had to believe him because he was so serious, looking me straight in the face.
Now, Crowman, I see in the chat, he's asked if it's Scott Pace. Yes, it is Scott Pace. He's been on a few other talk shows, not many, but I can get you guys his information. I'm sure he'd be happy to come and talk with you guys about some of the stuff. And you're talking about manifestations and ghosts. At some of these plantations, which the energy at these places is so dark and dense, and it's kind of sad. They make light on these tours, and it's a little disrespectful the way they do these tours. Sometimes the tour guides are a little animated and they embellish the stories, and it can get a little ridiculous. But on some of these plantation tours, they've had people faint from the crazy energy that surrounds the area and the property. And some of the most terrifying tales are people saying that they see apparitions of humans hanging from trees, being lynched, from trees on the property. So that's terrifying as well.
Yeah.
Not a good experience.
No.
Interesting. No. Really interesting. So how can people get a hold of you? When can they watch your show? Where is it?
Yeah. You can email me if you have any questions, if you got some guest suggestions, if you'd like to help with the production of the documentary, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Also, if you would like to help with a donation for the production, I am completely self-funded. It is just me doing this production, editing, filming, producing, all my little lonesome. If you would like to help with a donation, anything is greatly appreciated. You can do that at supportfkn.com. And you can watch all our shows on our website. Our website is forbiddenknowledge.news. We have video and audio podcasts. All the audio podcasts can be found on all podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, all the good ones. We just recently got kicked off of YouTube, so you can't find us on there, but we are on Rumble and we are on Rockfin. And Rockfin is also where you can get our premium content. It's another great way to support us. Rockfin, you get not only our premium content, but you get every creator that puts premium content on Rockfin. You get their content as well with a membership. So go check that out. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. This was fun.
It was fun. Augie, why don't you ask your famous question?
Oh, yes. That's the right place for it. I want to hear your opinion too. The question is, if you could talk to the whole world and the world is listening, what would you tell them?
Love each other.
Yeah.
That's it, man. It's that simple.
That's the truth.
Yeah. We just need more. We need more love, and we've got to stop focusing on the negative and focusing on so much of the outside of ourselves in this outside material matrix realm, because there is nothing for us. There's nothing for us in this realm. Everything that we need is inside ourselves. And if we did more self-seeking and we did more self-love and self-care, we would be able to better take care of other people, because we would have already taken care of all the things we needed to with ourselves. So love yourself. That's about it.
Exactly. Yep. And we have to, it would be wonderful. Don't want to shit all over everybody, but it would be wonderful if we would stop looking and being impacted by the divisions. Okay. There is so much polarity being created on purpose, right? For you to choose a side. I like this. I stand for that. Right? We have to stop that. That is a distraction keeping us off our path.
The last place they want is to come together in the middle and have these discussions like we're having right now.
Exactly. So I'm with Chris. Love each other. Love each other so much. Take good care, guys. We'll see you next week with another incredible guest. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Augie. Thank you to our producer, Matt. And I just have to do our disclaimer because we talked about medical stuff. The views and opinions of Broadcast Team Alpha's guests are not necessarily those of Broadcast Team Alpha, but we love hearing from everybody. See you guys next week. Oh, join us Friday. We're talking about Edgar Cayce remedies on quantum well-being, right? It's only a half hour. Come join us, 7:30 right here. Much love, everybody.
And to follow Nori, the answer to the question is love. It doesn't matter what the question is. There you go.